All right, Cursed here. We're going to be looking at this Jedith or Jenin mercenary build. We'll figure out pronunciation later from Brian or Brienne. I'm not sure. So Jedith is a legendary creature style commander, and I can see here that the creator is looking for just a little just thoughts and ideas about lands. So Jedith says whenever you have another legendary creature into play, you get a 2/2 green cat warrior for 1 green. All right. So looking very quickly, obviously we have a really high sense of legendary creatures. This is exactly the direction we want to be going in, and we have a nice amount of ramp. I'm a big fan about this ramp package. And then we have a lot of really good support. Already, I'm a fan of this deck. It's the build itself makes a lot of sense to me. You're covering a lot of the bases you need to build a good deck, and I like that. Um, I see we have a card that hasn't come out yet, so very strong card in this deck, so I have no complaints there, but it's not real yet, so we're not going to talk too much about it. All right. Said about the lands. Really quickly, once again, I think it's a pretty strong base. So let's talk about what jumps out to me first. What jumps out to me first is our mana curve. So let's go down and see what it's like. We have a lot of things at 3, and we have a lot of things at 4, and it kind of trails off. Now, what's kind of important to understand when we're playing Commander like this is that we're going to add 1 green to the cost of every creature that's legendary. So something like Goldforge, Thropper Turks, I'm not going to even try. We don't need to worry about, but Reese is 2 mana. Safi is 3 mana. The Rally Chip is 3 mana, right? Because we want to trigger getting those 2/2 Cat Warriors as much as possible. Otherwise, we'd just be playing general Bant legendaries. So we should lean a little bit into this. So we have certain cards that are really strong. Prava of the Steel Legion feels weak. I feel like there is going to be some legendaries here that are just going to feel a little weaker because they're here to fill out the curve. Like Sakashima, fantastic. Shalai, pretty strong. Toski, great. God Eternal Alketra, not as much, I would say. I like the synergy that whenever you cast a creature spell, you get a 4/4 zombie warrior, but she's 6 mana now if you want the cat token. And even then, she just makes better tokens. So if you really like the strategy, well, we're not going to go to mono white. Karametra's great here. Tatiova's fine. OG Jedit is it's on theme, but it's a lot of mana. It's 3 mana and 4 green pips. That's 7 mana for a 5/5 and a 2/2, so 7 power. I don't I don't see that as well. Elshnorn is fantastic here. Galta and Maverin is fine. It's a lot of mana, but I do like that these high mana cost cards both build towards the theme as well. Nizahal, I don't think it should be here. So there's two directions I would like you to think of when you're building this deck. One direction is pretty straightforwardly that we want something to do with these 2/2 green cat warriors. Um, we definitely have some here. Toski is a really good direction to go into. But I wouldn't, and so is Alshnorn. But I wouldn't mind a few things that would increase the strength of our tokens. There's a green saga. Let me see if I can find it. There's a green saga that I like for a deck like this. So type saga, 2 mana and green. Song of Freyalise. Song of Freyalise is great here because it lets you use the creatures you're dropping as mana to pay for more Cat Warrior triggers. And then at the end of it, it increases the strength of all of your creatures and gives them a bunch of abilities for the turn. I really like that there. I don't know if you're playing Yamamaya. You are. Good. Okay. Absolutely should be playing this because you want for sure your opponents for your cards to be unblockable. Um, there's also a green curse. We'll go by color. Green is the last one. Cursive Bounty, Cursive Predation. Similarly, I don't think I would be too upset about playing one of these, which I'm pretty sure you're not playing, as it'll work as a pseudo anthem, and it'll give a direction for all of your cats to attack in. Every time they attack, they grow, and yeah, it's going to put a lot of pressure into one player, but I think that's something this deck can kind of benefit from. You don't really have a lot of secrets. You're playing to the board and what you see is what you get, right? You're going to have a bunch of legendaries. There's going to be no surprises. And because of that, you need a way to kind of reduce the pressure that you're going to see from your opponents. If you pull ahead, it's going to be really obvious that you're ahead, and your opponents are going to need a reason to not aggravate you. Having a curse or other politics cards are really good because that's just going to take away some of that pressure and point it towards your opponents. The other thing I want, which you have in small degree here, is blink spells. Jedit doesn't care how the creature enters the battlefield. You don't need to cast it. So using some blink spells can be particularly useful here to get a few extra triggers. Now, it's still kind of tricky because a lot of these trigger, like a card like Eerie Interlude is a really good example where it's really strong to bounce a number of creatures in and out. But then we're adding a green to this casting cost for each for each creature you bounce, each legendary creature, let's say. And you definitely don't want any of those bounce effects that bounce all your creatures, because then you're gonna lose your cats, your tokens. Instant, and they're probably gonna be in white. So let's see. Semester's End would be another one. That's what I was looking for. That would be particularly strong. Additionally, just general white-blue blink cards. I'm trying to remember the name of the spirit right now. Soul Herder. Soul Herder's great because it's just going to guarantee another trigger. It isn't a legendary, so you can safely drop it out turn 3 without feeling like you need to add a green to it. But it's going to ensure. I didn't check if you were playing it. No. It's going to ensure to have more triggers each turn. Um, with that in mind, I think the one thing that I would also want to see more of is just a little card draw. You are in the colors. Rhystic Study is great. Guardian Project is great. Um, our Squirrel, Toski is great here. We definitely have cards that lead towards some draw. Reality Chip is something I really, really like here, especially if you were to lower the curve. So one of the things I often think about, Biden of Thas is okay. It's a Toski redundancy, so I do like it. Great Henge is very, very good. But something I like to think about when I'm building commander decks is that ramp and draw, they are very similar effects. As you ramp, you're seeing more of your deck and you can play more of the cards. And because, so usually I prefer draw to ramp because sometimes playing a land every turn is more than enough. However, you have very specific casting costs. Once again, look at all these creatures and all of these mana pips and add a green to them. So like Igna and Eskia, which is great to fix up your mana, that's two green blue, sorry, two green green blue. Now you don't have to always do the extra green in order to get the 2/2, but then you're not really playing your deck. So I like the large amount of ramp. Um, I'm gonna take a second to talk about ramp just a moment more. Something that is important to think about when we talk about ramp is there's three main flavors of ramp. There's 1 mana creatures, there's 2 mana that puts lands directly into play, and 3 mana and higher that put a land into play and something else, such as Cultivate and Kodama's Reach give you a land in hand, and once you get to 4 mana, you're going to get 2 lands in play. This is a deck I actually recommend that maybe you think about having a few more 3 mana and higher ramp cards because your the growth of your deck is exponential. The more mana you can have, each card gets more and more powerful. So when you have any legendary in hand, like let's say you have Venser and you have Ephemerate, those are two really good cards together. Let me go over Venser so we can look at it while we say this. These are two really strong cards together, but each cast gets even better if you can represent an additional green. So you want to be ramping and you want to ramp to a pretty high amount that you can comfortably hold up mana for these abilities and guarantee getting more cat tokens. The ability to cast Venser, bounce a spell, get a cat creature, and then later in the same turn cycle, ephemerate him in order to bounce another spell and get another cat token, that's incredibly strong. That alone represents 6 additional uh, power on the board, in addition to stopping and cutting off mana from your opponents. They've wasted their turns, and you have another group to attack it. I like this. I think this is strong. This is a direction that I would definitely go into. Um, I think for one thing, if I was looking for cuts, these two are signets and are relic. I really like Tangleroot. This is very strong. But for these two, I don't think you really need them. You're deep into green ramp. Green is your main color. I prefer having a land in play than I would want a destroyable artifact. This deck doesn't really use the artifacts to the highest degree, and I think I would enjoy having lands. There's also that I just thought of it. Um, that is it a muse? I always forget this card's name. Seedborn Muse, yes. So untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step. Once again, very, very strong here. In fact, I'm not going to look it up, but I would also suggest anything that would give your creatures flash would be also very strong for you to be able to hold up all your mana and keep your counter spells and your interaction up. That would be the direction I'd go into. Um, Once again, for cuts, there are some legendary creatures that are a little subpar here. Um, I've named a few. I think you also know which ones they are. Some of these just like Jazzle Goldmane, despite the fact that it's really cool to have more cats. This could just be a non-legendary creature. There's a few that you can put in here with low opportunity cost, especially things that blink your legendary creatures or protect them. I think it would be worth going into. Skirelv, or however we pronounce the little mite, isn't in here. That's very surprising to me. This is another card. Once again, low mana legendaries are great here because this represents a 2 mana 3/3 with all of these abilities and forced walk on the 2/2. But yeah, otherwise, I like this deck. It's a good deck. I hope you have fun with it, and I hope this deck assist helped you. And yeah, no, I love this idea. I think if you clean it up, it's going to be a very strong deck. All right, thank you.